Everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and The Daily Critique. Today's image was submitted by Jose, who's a beginning photographer from Spain. Jose says he was on a beautiful beach in the southeast of Spain. He had a beautiful sunset. He ended up shooting away from the sunset, so I want to talk more about that in a little bit. This is essentially the eastern sunset. And Jose says that he had a beautiful cloud. We see it there in the background of the shot. He said that he consciously tried to get a breaking wave to create some symmetry or repetition with this cloud. He said he also says he consciously composed this rock into the shot so that it would lead out to the most dynamic place in the cloud here on a diagonal in a dynamic way. And Jose shot this with a Canon 10D, an 18 to 200 zoom at 18 millimeters. So after the conversion, this is around a 30 millimeter shot, semi-wide, f16, ISO 100, 1/4 of a second. So really important thing to remember here. You're just getting into shooting landscapes, just remembering this focal length, this kind of motion, basic surf action in 1/4 of a second is creating this kind of look on the water. And it's a really good starting point if you're trying to simplify the surf action a little bit by slowing it down without killing all the texture. 1/4 of a second, half second, somewhere in there is a good one to remember. Jose shots this from the tripod and was also using a polarizer. Let's get right into it. I love the shot. Really beautiful. I love the repetition that Jose went for here. I think it's gorgeous. One of the things that I also love, in addition to the placement of this rock, on about a third in the image, and it's doing a very beautiful job of, in a dynamic way, anchoring the shot, but also balancing. So the idea of informal symmetry, the rock can sort of balance the whole cloud, point to it in a dynamic way. It's not just that, it's also that the flat shape of the rock, the contouring lines, the sense of form in here creates a whole series of repetitions. It rhymes the shape of the cloud, it rhymes the shape of a lot of the movement down in here. It plays off of these textures out here in the middle ground in a way that's really beautiful. It's just sort of amazing how this idea helps to, at one time, anchor the shot and anchor some energy, but also it's one of the main things that's creating a very powerful sense of unity among all the subjects. And the other thing that I would mention here is this really beautiful feeling of sort of soft light, pastel light. As far as digital cameras have come, and they're sort of amazing now, to say the least, the tone curve of the sensor has not really improved much at all, and that must be something that's very difficult to do. Otherwise, it would have changed already. And what I mean by that is digital capture still has a real hard time with the brightest points in the scene. But digital capture gives us a lot more shadow detail than we used to get on average shooting slide film. So when we shoot the eastern sunset or the western sunrise, shooting away from the light source instead of shooting into the eastern sunrise and into the western sunset, we can make our life a lot easier. We get away from things like split neutral density filters because the dynamic range is too big. We get away from having to bracket exposures and do a lot of work in Photoshop, and it's just something to think about. With the digital camera, instead of fighting this fact that the highlights blow out, I started to change the way that I shot, and I do shoot a lot more of my landscapes in these directions. And it's just another great thing to think about as a photographer, to always try and be together enough technically and aware enough. It'd be really cool to just shoot some sketch shots. Whenever you set up to shoot in this direction, what about a sketch shot in this direction, this direction, this direction, just to start to teach yourself more about quality of light, how the camera sees it, so on and so forth. So I wanted to mention that. When I think about this image and any kind of variation that I might like better, the one thing that I think about is this texture in the middle ground gets pretty powerful. And one of the ways that we could have cut down on that is to get this exposure and say, yeah, I really love the breaking wave here, and that's what I want. But let me shoot a few more exposures on this scene and slow the shutter down even more. One of the things I do love about carrying my 4x6 Stingray split neutral density filters, so they're longer than the ones that fit the P-series Koken, is that they're so long that the top part of the filter where it's dark can act as a neutral density. It doubles as split neutral and neutral density. This will cover even my widest angle of view on my lens. And let's say I have a 3 or 4 stop split neutral density filter and I do carry those, then I could have taken 1/4 of a second, slowed it down to, I could have gone to a half, a second, 2 seconds, 4 seconds. That might have been enough It could have also stopped down to F22 because in that shot I could care less about diffraction. I'm trying to essentially make things softer and make the detail go away. I could have got easily to 8 seconds or 15 seconds. I could have blended that exposure with this exposure. Here's a gross estimate of what I'm talking about. I could just see softening sort of everything and trying to play kind of the torrent texture of the edge of the cloud off of the bottom part and making the middle ground something that's more subtle. And would love to hear what you have to think about that. I wish that I'd done a little bit better job of this in Photoshop because it would look a lot nicer in camera. You wouldn't lose as much just local contrast. You'd just get rid of some of the texture. I think this would make a really beautiful black and white conversion. There's just one idea. And here's something else I wanted to mention today. I'm going to make this smaller. And whenever I work on images now, particularly landscape images, I'm constantly thinking about the idea of reproportion and rescaling. This is a shot where I think the more panoramic that I went with this, maybe the better it would look. The longer I make these lines, there's such a beautiful part of the image. The further I have to go to get to this is sort of the anchoring, tie it all together element that I might slow my eye down even more, and I might like it even more. And this is what I'm talking about. We could just go here and just go to image size and uncheck the constrained proportion. So just uncheck this. Typically the default is checked. Let's uncheck it and just make the image wider than it is long. And we could just experiment with this. I'm going to go to 16 inches and hit OK. And there's nothing about this that seems wacky, even the rock. If I start to go too much further than this, the rock might start to seem whack. So what I could start to do is make selections like this on the edge and not include the rock and pull those edges out even a little bit more and get to something like a true 2-to-1 panoramic. This is before, let me go all the way back through this. This is before and this is after. And let me drop that selection. So you can love to hear your feedback on what you think about that idea. Like I said, I think that we could continue to go even further, and it's just something I'd really encourage you to think about, the idea of rescaling and changing image proportions. With a strong digital file to start off with, we can really res things up 300, 500, 700% a lot of times without any perceived loss of quality. And to me, this is work that is so easy and so fast to do, and it's something that can really change the way we look at part of an image or an overall image. And I'm just constantly reminding myself that I have that as a creative tool that's available to me after the fact. Love, love, love this shot. It's a beautiful image. Let me get back to Jose's original shot here, and just want to say a big thank you to Jose for sharing this with us on the Mindful Eyes Daily Critique.